Hello, how are you friend? I am Dr. Arslan. I am going to show you guys a video. There is a homeopathic doctor who will tell about
The cry sounds become important in trying to analyze the case. I'm always not saying that they can be the definitive factor in differentiating the medicines. They can always help you as you go ahead to make a differentiation in the remedies. Without any further ado, I'd like to start off. My first cry is a whimpering. When you come across whimpering, it's like a low, feeble sounds which is expressing pain. It's a low, feeble sound of cry. So they're not able to express properly their grief even in their cry. The top medicines for that are aurum, ignatia and myrrh. You understand, with aurum and myrrh there are syphilitic remedies, and with syphilitic remedies it's always not possible to express their emotions. They're cold-blooded, they are always keeping it inside, they're always close-mouthed. So that's important for the syphilitic group of medicines. And even with the whimpering, with aurum, with mercury, you'll find that low, feeble sounds of cry, as if unable to express their pain, as if unable to express their grief even with their cry. So that's my number one cry, my friends, is whimpering. My number two cry, my friends, which you'll find also quite common, is sobbing. Sobbing is a cry with catches of breath. So they're crying with catches of breath, and that sobbing with catches of breath is always the top medicine, is ignatia. Now whenever you're trying to analyze a remedy like ignatia, you'll find 4 varieties of cry in ignatia. So I'll just quickly differentiate the ignatia expressions of grief. So with ignatia, you can always find number one is whimpering. As I shared with you, they're unable to express their grief. So that low, feeble sound of cry. You can find an ignatia where there is sobbing, as I mentioned just now. So that you can find. You can find an ignatia where there is silent grief, where they're not being able to express their grief, and the only way they express their grief is sighing. So that's the only expression of grief with ignatia's silent grief. And those ignatias, the ignatia is always followed up with natrum mute. So that's a complementary chain whenever you have that silent grief. And you can have a 4th variety of ignatia, which is also another variety of cry, is wailing. That loud, expressive, hysterical cry. Whenever you analyze the word hysterical for ignatia, you can always find different varieties of hysteria. One ignatia will give you a globus hystericus, a lump in the throat. Other varieties of ignatia may become unconscious. Another variety of ignatia where there is wailing. So they're crying very, very loudly, where you can find that wailing with ignatia. And I will add another 5th one to that, where in ignatia you can find the laughing alternates with weeping. So the laughing alternates with weeping. So you see, the cry is merging into the laughter, and that's also a hysterical manifestation of ignatia, where the crying is alternating with weeping. Other medicines for that, other top remedies for that, you have that in pulsatilla, you have that in coffea, you have that in platina, you have that in natrum mute, and obviously ignatia. These are your top 5 remedies where the laughing alternates with weeping, or the laughing merges into weeping, or vice versa. So that's the hysterical varieties of ignatia, which is very often found in the Metromedica. So I shared with you, number 1 was whimpering, number 2 is sobbing, number 3 is wailing, which is also obviously one of the top remedies, is ignatia, and number 4 you can find the laughing alternating with weeping as well with ignatia. My next variety, my friends, is Very interesting type of cry is number 5, which I call as a piteous moaning. Now when you think of the remedy chamomilla, Mom, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. So the piteous moaning, it's a whining restlessness with chamomilla. Please give me this, please give me this, please give me this. So as if the cry is expressing that whining, that what he's trying to express through his cry. So it's a piteous moaning. We call that as a whining restlessness. And that you can find obviously with chamomilla, who are very uncivil, who are always better by being carried. So whenever you're trying to analyze chamomilla's cry, do always look for that constant tone of moaning, as if that cry is trying to express, Mom, give me this, Mom, give me this, Mom, give me this. So that's the piteous moaning which you find with chamomilla. Another cry which comes very close to chamomilla is a pitiful cry. How is it different? A pitiful cry is most commonly observed with pulsatilla. So you don't have that moaning with pitiful cry, and pulsatilla's pitiful cry is a cry which evokes sympathy. It tries to draw out your sympathy, and that's pulsatilla's pitiful cry. So you think of chamomilla's cry, the comparative metromedic, it's a pitiful cry, but it's a piteous moaning in chamomilla. But pulsatilla's cry is just a pitiful cry, minus the moaning of chamomilla. And it will draw the mother's attention, it will draw the parents' attention, and he wants to be carried, and he wants to be given the love and affection which pulsatilla is so much fond of. So pitiful cry is very important for pulsatilla's cry. Now with pulsatilla, there are a few other factors for pulsatilla's cry which I like to highlight. Obviously you can get this with the pulsatilla. Also, you do also remember for pulsatilla, there are many debates about is pulsatilla better by crying or is pulsatilla worse by crying. My understanding, or what I have learnt as an ancestral tip again, if you look in Stanham Met chapter in Allen's keynotes, you will find with pulsatilla that crying makes her worse. Pulsatilla is always better by sympathy and consolation, but with pulsatilla crying makes her worse. Other remedies for that, you find that in Stanham Metallicum, Natrum Mur, Sepia and pulsatilla, where crying makes her worse. So do remember for pulsatilla, they're better.